I said it recently that, the WNBA players on average are getting $300,000. They're bringing in, a fraction of what the UFC are bringing in, and it's pretty piss poor. So
I think Israel Adesanya is definitely chinny these days. He's not taking punches like he used to. He's not the same guy at the moment that we saw. Righto, we are back. Episode 5 of the Throwing Shade podcast. We've made it. Bally, my co-host Aaron Ball here. I'm Ben Tucker. It's the 25th of March. Would you believe it? We're 2 months into this podcast now, Bally. We've made it through to our 5th episode. Awesome time in terms of sport. There's a lot going on from a combat sports perspective, which we're going to touch on. But importantly in our lives here in Australia, AFL is back. How exciting. We even got you down to an Essendon game a couple of weeks ago, would you believe it? Wearing a tight little Essendon jumper, which was nice to see. But you're the lucky charm, Bally. We've had an absolute mare of a start once again. I'm going to put it down to you being there out the front and jinxing us, Bally. But how you going, mate? How's the week started? You glad that footy's back?
Wearing an Essendon jumper was sickening. I took about 10 baths to get that putrid smell of failure off me. I don't think it was me, Tuckers, that was the reason you guys lost. I've never been to a game where the fans leave at half-time. But, I got a real look into what it's like to be an Essendon supporter. Luckily, we couldn't find a face painter, so I only had to do the jumper. But I met a lot of great Essendon people and told them how great it is to have Merritt still there. But yeah, mate, it was pretty rough. I don't know how you guys sit through that crap every week. I'm glad I've got the black and white back on this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't blame you, mate. Yeah, it's I'm half considering actually jumping on the Pies train at this stage. That's how rough it's been. But look, we're not going to talk too much AFL because there's plenty going on in the world of combat sports at the moment. But just very briefly, just want to say to our audience, as always, thank you so much, everyone, for the continued and ongoing support. Things are still going really well for the Throwing Shade podcast. I believe we're up to nearly 1,300 subs on YouTube. Yep. Bally, is it? Yeah, nearly 1,300, which is so surreal to actually think. But yeah, we're there. Instagram's going really well. Spotify downloads are up. So thank you to everyone that's continuing to consume the content. Please like, subscribe, follow if you haven't already. As Bally always says, tell your mum, tell your friends. We want to grow this show to bigger and new heights. And we've been doing plenty of work in the background to bring a few cool elements to this show. We've got some cool guests lined up for the next few weeks. You might see us at a live event here or two in the coming months as well. So yeah, plenty happening. But Bally, just want to touch on quickly before we jump into the heavy content of UFC and mixed martial arts that we've got for tonight. But yourself, you got a bit of an update for us on the weight loss journey. I think you were targeting some pretty outlandish numbers that I wasn't quite sure that you'd be getting there. But how are we tracking, mate? Give us the rundown of where you're up to and I guess what the outlook's looking like for the next few weeks or months. Yeah, well, it's been a little bit quiet about it just because I probably didn't have the exact dedication that I said I would. I managed to go to Bali for a Bucks party, so that kind of hampered the weight loss. But no, it's all going well. It's week 6 now as of today, and I've dropped 6 kilos. So wow, not bad. Obviously, my trainer would like me dropping 1.5 to 2 a week, but I've managed to still do a couple of functions. I've gone to Bali. I've gone to the footy a few times. I've had a few beers. So I'm now just starting to really put the head down and commit. So I'm hoping to drop another 10 to 12 in the next kind of 7 weeks. So I'm pumped, mate. It's time to get serious. I'll put up some photos soon. Not yet because it's a bit embarrassing. But once we start seeing the abs popping out in the gun show, that's weak, boy. That's weak. I was just about to ask when the abs are coming through because I haven't seen them yet. No, I know if you had them, you'd be showing me. So. Mate, if you find them, let me know because I'm looking for them. But there's still a little bit of pud there. But I actually did my before and afters from today, and my side profile, you can actually see a lot of my guts gone. So there's still a lot of work to be done. But yeah, I'm ticking away nicely. The trainer's happy. I got my kick in the ass that I needed. But I'm here to tell everyone it is possible. Obviously,
I'm probably going the early crow yet. I've still got plenty of weight to lose. But for anyone out there that's struggling with their weight, it honestly, it's not rocket science. It's move more, eat less. If you can, count your calories just for the first, few months. Understand what you're putting into your body. And, it's I feel so much better. I'm doing, say, 15,000 steps a day, which is tough. 3 to 4 workouts a week. Obviously looking at my macros, my protein, my carbs, my fats. It's fun and it's exciting, but it's obviously really tough. And obviously had plenty of ups and downs, Tuckers.
How many calories do you have in a day at the moment? What's the threshold that you're allowed to get to?
Yeah, so it's pretty lean. I'm on about 1,800. I kind of hover between 16 and 1,800. And some days I'll just completely, drop off a breakfast, or if I want to have a really nice meal, I'll just really have to cut a few calories somewhere. But at the moment we're really lean, and then as we drop the weight, we'll probably go up to around 2,100, and then I can start having a few cheat meals.
Oh, fantastic, boy. Well, look, here's to you. Congratulations. I'm very happy for you.
I'm not sure, is it sarcasm or,
just to celebrate. I know you've done some really mad work recently, so I've just got a couple of treats for you just to...
Don't do it.
Just to get you through the night, get you through the pod. We normally do this pod early in the day, so I thought a bit of a sugar hit for you, mate. Wouldn't hurt. To Physique Factory, I'm looking after your boy.
My trainer, he's not going to be too happy.
You strike me as a guy who likes his caramel, Bully, so I got you some caramel crowns as well.
Tuckers. They are actually my favourite.
I swear to God, I did not know that, but having known you for a few years now, I could have picked it.
Oh my God, I'm swapping the Tim Tam for the crown.
So if you don't really want to do the cheat meal and you want to do the right thing by the Physique Factory, you put it down and you can have your celery, carrots, and tzatziki, Bully. So I want to test your commitment here.
Wow,
that's your
ladies and gentlemen,
you,
this is what we call an ultimate stitch up, and trying to tempt me with the devil's work. But you know what? Dane, this is for you, mate. I'm on the carrots. I'm on the celery sticks. I don't need that junk, mate. So
I've got this camera on you all night, so we'll see it if you sneak one. So I'll be putting that up on your socials if you actually sneak one. So look, great job though. In all seriousness, buddy, keep it going.
Thanks,
but look, let's get into the content of I guess why we're here, and that's to talk about combat sports.
Yep.
We have had plenty of action happening recently. There's been a lot going on outside the actual cage, which is really cool and really exciting for us diehard UFC and combat sports fans. But we had a really cool fight night take place on Sunday morning our time, Bally. We had the fight which I believe has determined the next opponent for Alexander the Great Volkanovski, our man, our boy, well my boy, not yours after you backed against him against Diego Lopez. But we had Movsar Evloev take on Lerone Murphy in London on Lerone Murphy's home set, on his home deck, home soil, and we saw him get touched up. Lerone really fell away hard in that fight. He probably started pretty well because the fight was predominantly held on the feet. Movsar came in clearly wanting to show the UFC that he's not a boring submission artist that's just going to take the fight to ground. Clearly wanted to stand. I think he was looking for a knockout, and I think he worked out that he doesn't really have that in his tool bag. But as the fight went on, he'd clearly worn down Lerone. We saw a point deduction in the 4th round, I believe it was, but Movsar still came away with a points and decision victory. What do you think, Bally? Give me how you saw the fight, and I guess does that solve it? Is Movsar now the number 1 contender? Does he fight Volk? There is a man out there called Gene Silva who is getting a lot of attention at the moment from people saying that he might jump the queue and get that Volk fight. Give us your take on it, and who's taking on Volk next?
Yeah, I thought the fight was great. Honestly, we discussed it, over the phone, and I've chatted with a few mates. And at one stage, I actually thought Murphy actually won the fight. Obviously, with that point deduction he discussed, I thought he was piecing him up on his feet. He's had the jab working, and Evloev hadn't actually taken him down. So I was thinking, I don't know, going punch for punch with Lerone Murphy is the right plan when he's such a great grappler and wrestler. I thought thought he would take him down. He would shoot straight away. But as you said, I guess he's probably 19-0 now, 20-0, and he's probably thinking, geez, the UFC, Dana's not loving me. Maybe the grappling and the wrestling's not doing it. I'll show everyone. Let me just try and stand on my feet and show my striking. As you said, I think as the fight wore on, you could see Lauren Murphy. He spoke that to his corner that he might have popped a hip probably late in the third, and then from there it was kind of like blood in the water for the shark, and Evloev just started taking him down and wearing him down and really just dominating him. So I was surprised with the decision. Looking at it back, it is probably correct. And like I said, I'm excited to see now 20-0. It's undeniable. They have to give him a title shot. They can't go around him again. And you heard Volk in the media say, listen, you know what? I want the best. I'm not just going to fight the guy they want to give me or the personality or, the stylistic fight. I want the best, and he's happy to take him on. So exciting times for my boy, not your boy, my boy, the great Alexander Volkanovski, and he proved everyone and proved me wrong that he's still got it, and I think he can still get it done. What about you?
Yeah, I think Lerone got, I don't want to say fraud checked because he's KO'd a lot of blokes recently, and he's also undefeated. Like, it's not often that you get two guys like this that have had such an extensive record of being undefeated within the UFC anyway. Just once again just shows these grapplers and wrestlers are just hard to beat. If you're a stand-up knockout artist, it's just proven more and more difficult. But what it tells me is that I don't think Lerone would stand a chance against Volk. I just don't believe that. He's just going to have what it takes to get across the top of Volk. Yeah. And how's he going to do it? I don't believe he catches Volk. I'm not sure that he's going to catch him. He's not going to be able to take him down clearly. So, look, I think that would be a favourable matchup for Volk. But at the same time, I'm also confident with Volk and Movsar. I think Movsar, again, I think if he's going to go into a fight with Volk, he's going to want to prove something. He's going to want to prove that he can do it on the feet. If he can't take Lerone Murphy down with ease in the first few rounds, he's not getting Volk down. Volk's submission defense and takedown defense is off the charts.
Yep.
His smarts are just incredible. But yeah, I think everyone knows my thoughts on this. I am worried to the extent that Movsar is an up and comer, undefeated. Volk is just continuously churning through these guys that are the next up and coming contenders. But I think having watched that fight the other day, it actually left me with a bit more confidence that Volk will get the win in that next fight. So yeah, I think that's what we'll see. I think we'll see Volk v Movsar Evloev. It's clearly what Volk wants. When do you think we see it, Bally? How quick can Movsar turn around? Didn't look like he took a lot of damage. When do we see that fight? What's your tip? And where?
Volk actually said in an interview recently, and he was saying, I'm ready to go. He was putting the timeline maybe June, July, August, but then Movsar was pretty much saying, hey, I'm ready to go. Like, I've taken no damage, give me Volk, I'm ready to go, I'm hungry, I want the title. So, yeah, I could see, obviously, could it be the White House card? Like, is that the fight that puts that card over the edge? I'm leaning towards no, just because obviously commercially, I think Dana's probably a bit too smart. Like, he doesn't need that. Everyone's pretty happy with the card. It'll do fine. They're probably going to look for International Fight Week or maybe like you said, August, September, a standalone, main event card. So, I think it's definitely going to happen, and I reckon we're looking at July, August.
Yeah, cool.
What about you?
Look, in terms of when it happens, I couldn't tell you, Bally. But they're going to Volk's a big name, right? Like, he's a pay-per-view in the old terminology, a pay-per-view headliner. He's a premium live event headliner now. I haven't even seen the schedule of what's coming up beyond International Fight Week, but I don't think we'll see him on the White House. I don't think they'll put him on International Fight Week. So it's probably that sort of August, September period I think does work, where they normally go around that time of year. There's normally, I believe, a card in the Middle East around that time of year. Normally another Vegas card. New York is later in the year, November.
Yeah.
So it's a toss of the coin, mate. I couldn't really tell you. I don't think we're going to see him in Perth on a fight night.
I don't think so.
In a month or two.
Quick question without notice, and I'll just stop you mid-sentence there. Are we a bit worried that, you know, a lot of these champions now, we got Islam, grappling wrestler. We've got Chimaev, grappling wrestler. We've just had the Marab saga where, you know, he's probably going to come back. I can't see him not getting the title again. Then we're now going to have Movsar being a grappling, you know, wrestler. Are we worried that the UFC, you know, is going to have these boring champions and we're going to lose a bit of the spark and crowds are going to get over it? What are your thoughts, Tuckers?
Well, you forgot the biggest one of all, Bully. You forgot the BMF champion in Charles Oliveira.
Oh,
right?
here we go.
You just forgot that, right? But no, I think it's a fair point. It's obviously harder to sell it to casuals, I think, when there are wrestlers, there's grapplers, Sambo artists, like it's definitely harder to sell to a casual fan. I get that. I think people who are purists of the sport and who do love the sport can appreciate that what these guys are doing. Like Khamzat Chimaev is not a boring fighter. I'm sorry, he's just. A lot of people say that fight with Drickus last year was really boring, but I think it's incredible. I think it's artwork to watch someone go to work at that level.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, I think they're going to want to address it in some way. I'm not sure what they can do though, because it's clearly a style which you know can beat the striking at the moment. And I think what it does, Bally, it really leans us to appreciate the truly special strikers. So Ilia Topuria, he's going up in everyone's eyes at the moment because look what he did to Charles Oliveira last year. He did what Max Holloway couldn't do. Look at Alex Pereira. Like, we've got to savour these guys who can do these striking, really good striking performances. So I think they'll always be there. I think we'll get really good fighters at different times that can strike. But yeah, there's no doubt it's a more dominant style at the moment, Bally. But thank you for throwing us off course once again just there.
That's what I do.
I did just really quickly want to wrap up the fight night card in London, where we saw an up-and-coming British fighter named Luke Riley, who's someone to watch just for people who are interested in the future of the sport. He's what a lot of people are deeming to be the next Paddy Pimblett. Came away with a little bit of an underwhelming decision victory, but he's someone that knocks blokes out for fun, so keep an eye on him. Then we had a barn burner in the third fight down the line in the welterweight division, Bally. We had Michael Venom Page, your boy, go to a decision victory against his old training partner, and I think they're actually they're quite chummy. Him and Sam Patterson went to a decision victory, which I think I heard you got some thoughts on, Bally.
Yeah, Tuckers, it's been a while because I've just, been marinating, but it's time to throw some shade. MVP, what the hell was that? 15 minutes of two men prancing around like little ponies in the ring. You're trying to become a champion. You're trying to go up the ranks and you give us that kind of terrible, dry, boring performance. It was embarrassing. There should be a rule you're not allowed to take on your mate because it looked like that. No one wanted to have any aggression. No one wanted to throw a strike. It was sickening. And mate, it's all good. Yeah, you're a unique style and you dance around and you're hard to hit, but you need to be giving us something, mate. We want to see some of those electrifying kicks and those elbows and punches. But what you put up was, that put me to sleep. And I'm putting it right on you now, MVP. You do one more performance like that, mate, you're gone. So, shade thrown, shade accepted. Don't do it again, mate.
That's awesome, Bally. I think... Look, I think you're being a bit stiff there on MVP.
I'm stiff.
It's his job to win the fight, right? He's going for victories.
Mate, did you watch the fight, mate?
I did watch the fight.
So what? You think what he did was acceptable? You think the guy who's trying to become a champion, the guy who's saying how great he is, dancing around, barely throw? I think they threw three significant strikes in the first round. It was embarrassing. It was pitiful. And if that's what you think that UFC should be, mate, then I don't know if you belong on this podcast.
Well, do you think there's something to the fact that he goes between middleweight and welterweight? Like, do you think he's still finding his feet on where he belongs? And look, there's a lot of talk about MVP's pretty unhappy with his position within the UFC at the moment. He's not getting a lot of big name fights. Even in this card, MVP should be. He's a huge name in the UK, right? His third fight down the line. I think there was some commentary around the walkout song that he came out to as well.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, which was a bit of an FU to the UFC.
They don't really care about us.
Yeah.
So, I think you're right. He's definitely upset, and maybe, who knows, was that him making a stand to say, listen, you don't pay me, you're going to get average performances. You pony up and you respect us fighters, we'll give you the shirt off our back and we'll give you our hearts. But, yeah, maybe I'm being a bit harsh, but I just didn't like like the look of it, Tuckers, and it was a waste of my my 15 minutes.
Okay, well, there you go. Well, yeah, I can't argue too much with you, Paulie, but yeah, look, I wouldn't back his chances MVP if he's going to take a stand against the UFC in that sort of a manner. Hasn't worked for Tom Aspinall. I'm not sure it's going to work for MVP. But look, while we're in the region, right, while we're in the area of the UK, we've got an interesting Instagram post which came up just before, Paulie, which I do want to touch on before getting into the big card this weekend. A lot of people might get shitty at us for constantly bringing him up, but we're not going to go an episode at the moment until we've got confirmed news about this man behind me, Conor McGregor, and what the return looks like for him, because he did just post on Instagram, what was it, not 7 hours ago, saying the rumours are true, Mr. Confidence returns to save fighting again. Call your grandma, nanny, we did it, watch and pay me. Fuck you, pay me, he says. He's putting it all out there, boy, that there is something just about to drop. Now, it's going to be colossal news when the fight is announced. I think it's going to be the biggest thing that's happened to UFC for at least 12 months or so, since he was probably last scheduled to fight Michael Chandler, which fell through. There's just so much uncertainty around who it's going to be, because there was all this talk about Nate Diaz now fighting with MVP. There was a bit of talk about Carlos Prates now fighting JDM in Perth. No one really knows. Now the talk is Max Holloway. No one knows who he's going to fight and at what weight division, but my sense is there is an announcement coming soon. If they want him for International Fight Week, they need to get cracking, because this man needs to get training.
Exactly. Have you seen what he looks like at the moment?
He needs to trim down. He needs to get on the
physique factory with Paulie.
He needs the physique factory diet. He needs to trim down a bit. So he will be announced very soon. I'm very confident.
Connor, less of these, champ. more of these freaking horrible things. These bloody more of that, mate.
So give me your tip. I've asked you before. I want to know again, who do you think he's going to be fighting? Where will he be fighting? And what does it mean for the UFC that Conor McGregor will be returning in the next few months?
The Notorious is back, baby. The prodigal son has returned. I'm so ecstatic to hear this news today. He was the man who got me into the sport. He's the one that put the UFC on the map. The UFC is just waiting for this explosion to come back through the doors. Imagine the press conference. Imagine the socials. It's going to be absolute fire. I can't wait to have the great man back. Yeah, right. We do harp on it a bit, but I guess he's one of our idols, and that's probably going to be my life's mission to get Conor McGregor on this podcast, because he is the man, the myth, the legend. But in regards to who he fights, it's a great question. Like, do we give him a Donald Cerrone, a little layup, just to kind of like wet the beak and get him a nice win early?
Even though Donald's been retired for 5 years.
No, I'm saying when they gave him it, you know what I mean? Gotcha. He came back, and instead of just going straight into the fire, they go, oh, let's give him Cerrone, get his confidence up, get a little bit of hype around him. I would love to see that again. I've spoke about it before. Let's give Conor an easy layup. Let's give him a Masvidal. Let's give him a potential Nate Diaz. Let's give him someone a little bit washed. He's going to have a lot of ring rust. He's been out of the game for a while. I tell you what, if they give him a killer like Max or Charles, it's going to be a very short stint for Conor McGregor. And the UFC doesn't want to have him losing his mystique. If he comes in and Max pieces him up for 2 rounds and knocks him out, like, the fairy tale's over, his mistake's gone, it's not the Conor we all knew and loved, and it's kind of goodbye. So I think that we give him someone easy, and let's let him get some confidence. Let's get him that swagger and give him another couple of big fight training camps, and then we can give him a real contender. We can give him a Max, we can give him a Charles, or maybe someone fun like a Paddy Pimblett, to an Irish and a Liverpoolian. Like, how good would that press conference be, Tuckers? And in regards to where it's going to be, I think that we've said it before, and I've said it multiple times. You're not going to waste Conor McGregor in the White House. You're not going to waste him anywhere else but Vegas. So I'm thinking International Fight Week. I think you're bang on the money. I think there's going to be a fight announced, and it will be International Fight Week. What are your thoughts, big fella?
I think, a lot of what you just said I agree with. I'm going to go against my own argument at the start a little bit, in that I'm getting a little bit of the sense that July is going to creep up really quick. I'm not sure that he will be ready to go by that point. You touched on there's nowhere that he can fight but Vegas. I would argue with that in the sense that he's the man that brought the UFC to New York City. He was the first ever headlining card on the UFC back in 2016 when he took out Eddie Alvarez. Double belt champion night ball.
Right behind you, mate.
That was Madison Square Garden, 2016. We're 10 years on from that. I just get this sense that the stars are aligning for a potential reincarnation of Conor within the UFC around that part of the year.
Wow.
Gives him a bit more time. The stars are not aligning in terms of opponents right at the moment either. He's not going to fight at middleweight like you're talking Paddy Pimblett, Max Holloway, Charles Oliveira. He's not fighting at 155. He's too big. He's going to fight at welterweight or middleweight. Believe it or not, I believe there is a chance he could go to middleweight. But in terms of who he's going to fight, I would not be surprised if they still went back to the well with Michael Chandler.
No, we can't.
I could just see it. If he comes through the White House card okay and unscathed, like you touched on, it's an easy matchup. There's history there.
But is it an easy matchup? Because Chandler is a bull. He's going to be super fit. He'll be able to blow out Conor's tank.
He's older than, I believe he's if not older than Conor, he's about the same age.
But have you seen what he looks like, how he trains? Like, he's been getting beaten comprehensively, but he's always like toe to toe and giving it his all. Like,
how often does he win, Bally? Not very often in the UFC.
Fair enough.
He's a bullet a gate fighter, and that's what they'll like about it. There's a lot of open windows for Conor to win that fight.
Okay.
I could see someone like a Dan Hooker putting on a bit of size to go to welterweight to big name, very hittable guy, will hit back.
Red underwear fight where you get your money, pay me.
Pay me.
I think Dan Hooker might need a few dollars with what's been happening in his private life.
I don't think Dan Hooker will be turning that fight down anytime soon. But yeah, look, completely open, but I'm going to go that Chandler gets a very attractive win at the White House and they decide to make the fight because it just makes the most sense. So, and I'm going to go, it's going to take place in Madison Square Garden in New York City in November of this year. That's my tip, Bally.
Love it. All right, I got Vegas. You've got Madison Square Garden. Let's see who's right.
All right, Conor, either way, we want to see you back this year. But let's go into the fight card this weekend, Bally, because we have a fight night, another fight night taking place in the USA this time around. We're in Seattle of Washington. Fight card is taking place on Sunday morning, Australian time at 11 a.m. The main card will start. We're not going to run through the entire card this time around, but we'd be remiss not to spend a bit of time on this fight card, Bally, because we've got one of our favourites, one of our own from the Anzac region in Israel, the last style bender, Adesanya, returning. Hasn't fought since he got KO'd last year against Imavov, taking on Joe Pyfer, an American KO artist, strong dude. Should be a really exciting fight, and I think it's really cool to see Israel Adesanya back. Fight's taking place at middleweight. Believe it or not, Izzy's lost 4 out of his last 5, including 3 times being finished. He's coming into this fight as a favourite. $1.72 favourite versus Joe Pyfer at $2.13. We've got the records. Israel Adesanya 24-5-0 versus Pyfer 15-3-0. Cool fight, cool matchup. There's no going backwards and coming forwards for Israel Adesanya. He's not taking an easy matchup here. This is a fight full of risk and full of challenges for Israel. Pyfer hits hard. I think Izzy's a little bit chinny. We've learned in his last few fights, and he might not be the exact same fighter that he was not just sort of 3-4 years ago. I'm not sure he can take a punch like he used to. Whether or not there's any part of that, what more does this man need to achieve in the sport? He is one of the undoubted GOATs of the middleweight division. I think we could probably say he's the best ever to do it in the middleweight division. Cleaned out the division. Come across some guy from his past who he just had a bit of a bad run against in Alex Poatan Pereira, who came to the UFC just to take on Israel Adesanya. Absolutely murdered him in that first fight. Came back for the rematch and did the absolute Rocky Balboa unthinkable and beat the giant, beat the Goliath in probably one of the most memorable things I've ever seen in the UFC. How much better does it get from that, Bally? And we've seen since then. Got chinned by Sean Strickland, lost at a convincing unanimous decision victory in Sydney. Got mauled by Dricus du Plessis in Perth, where he got choked out. Then he got done by Imavov over in the Middle East with a brutal KO down the middle in the second round, I think it was. I'm rambling on a little bit here, Bally, but I think it is an exciting matchup, but it's not without its risk for Israel Adesanya.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't be like you, Tuckers, to ramble on, but it's an exciting matchup. I'm a little bit worried for Izzy. Pfeiffer's, he's a great striker. He's super powerful. I think it's good that he's not like a grappler wrestler, because as we saw with Drickus, Izzy just couldn't, he just got manhandled. He had no idea how to get up. It was quite helpless. But I just think Izzy, I think he's dialed in. This is either going to go two ways. It's going to be the retirement fight and the swan song, and he puts the gloves down and realises he just gets past him, which, no harm in that. You defended your title 5 times. You're one of the all-time GOATs.
Two-time champion. As you said, he's one of our favourites.
Some of my favourite moments, just thinking back on Izzy, now that you're touching on it, that fight with Gaslam, I remember watching at the pub with the boys, and it was just a complete war. And that was when Gaslam was at the peak of his powers, and that was one of the best fights I've seen, for probably the whole time been watching. Obviously, the Robert Whittaker fight, I went to go see him. I know you did as well, at Marvel Stadium.
No, I wasn't there, Bally. I missed that one.
Oh, okay. Not a real fan, apparently. I went there with some mates, and he caught Rob just rushing in, got him with that counter, overhand right, knocked him out. Incredible. And then I was just reminiscing, as you were talking about that there as well, when he versed Anderson Silva, which was at the Rod Laver Arena. It was almost like the changing of the guard, where you've got the up-and-comer who's got a similar style to Silva, the style bender getting the win, then both kind of putting on, they put a bit of a show on, because Silva was probably past it. You could see Anderson is probably getting carried by Izzy, but what a great fight it was. So I'm super excited to have him back. I'm not sure he's going to get the win. I'm not sure the odds are right. This might be one of those ones like Paddy Pimblett Gaethje, where you just called it. I think $2 or whatever you said is pretty great value for Pfeiffer, and I could really unfortunately see Izzy getting, maybe catching one and going down. But what do you think? Do you think Izzy's, do you trust him?
Oh, look, it's hard not to trust Israel Adesanya, but reality is reality. And one thing that catches up with everyone, Bally, is Father Time. His age is the age-old saying.
Yep.
I think Israel Adesanya is definitely chinny these days. He's not taking punches like he used to. He's not the same guy at the moment that we saw piecing. And the other thing is about those 2 Pereira fights I just want to go back to, and it's hard to people to conceptualize this, but the first Pereira fight, where we know he got brutally KO'd in a really hard, heavy KO. End of the first round, if there was 5 more seconds, Israel Adesanya was flooring Pereira. He was nearly done. He nearly had him out. The second fight against Pereira, it was a bit of a reverse. Pereira was piecing him up quite a bit and nearly had him. And just the countering, the smarts from Israel Adesanya to find his opportunity. I think Pereira came into that fight, headband high, really confident he was going to win, saw a hurt Israel Adesanya, was trying to take his opportunity, and just the smarts of Israel Adesanya came through to counter and get an over-the-top shot against Pereira, which floored him. I'm not sure that we're going to get that same level of speed from Israel that we've seen in the past, and I don't know that he's going to take a punch like he did back then. He's fought some of the biggest hitters that you'll see in the division, Yoel Romero, Rob Whittaker, Paulo Costa. He's fought some seriously heavy hitters and, taken some really big shots from some of the best over the years. But, getting into his late 30s now, I don't think it's going to be that easy to do that anymore. So I would love to see Israel come away with a good win against a really good opponent here in Joe Pfeiffer. But my gut tells me that Pfeiffer's going to catch him and potentially get him early in the fight. The other thing that I think, other thing that we've got to remember stands in Israel's favour is that he is headlining, I believe it's around his 15th or 16th show now in a row. So that is a lot of times to be fighting 5 rounds back to back to back, going in those really deep waters of fights. Hasn't always got there, obviously, but I'm not sure Joe Piper's ever fought in a 5-round fight. I'd have to double check that. But if we get into deep waters and we get into that sort of 4th, 5th round, I'd be pretty confident that Israel can have the fitness, have the stamina, have the smarts to come away with a decision victory. Clearly one of the best counter strikers that we've ever seen. If he could take out Piper's legs with those famous leg kicks that we've seen Israel do through the years, definitely a chance. It's just something that tells me Piper might catch him a bit early in the fight. But boy, I'd love to be proven wrong. So let's tune in and cheer on the great last style bender and hope that it's not the last time we see him, Bally.
Exactly, mate. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's going two ways. Either Izzy gets caught in the early rounds by a big overhand right, or it goes into the deep waters and Izzy's speed's too good, or maybe Piper comes out a little bit too aggressive, deer in headlights, throws too many, big kitchen sinks at him, and he just boom, 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 evades, lands one on his chin, and Izzy wins. So it's exciting, mate. It's good to have him back, but let's see what happens.
Let's just quickly round out the, that's all we're going to touch on for this fight night in Seattle for this Sunday. I know we've spoken about it before, Bally. On one of the last pods, we mentioned that Sean Strickland, if he can come away with a victory, he might get that Khamzat Chimaev title shot. We found out a couple of weeks ago he is taking on Khamzat Chimaev. Sean Strickland's getting another title shot. Would you believe it? I'm not going to spend too much time on it now, Bally, because we will revisit this in a later episode. But give me your very quick thoughts on this fight. How do you see it playing out? And I guess, was Sean Strickland the rightful deserver of the next title shot against Khamzat Chimaev? Yeah,
I think it's an exciting matchup. I don't think, unfortunately for Sean, I love him. I love everything about him. I love his personality. He's out there. He's controversial. But you're going up against a guy like Chimaev who's he's just a beast. He's a grappling machine. His wrestling's probably almost number one in the UFC. I think if he gets any chance just to trade with him, maybe Sean can piece him up a little bit on the feet, but I just think Chimaev's going to take him down, sweat on him. It's going to be big brother versus little brother, and I think it's going to go the way of Chimaev. I can't see Sean. He probably didn't deserve it either, to be fair. He beat Fluffy, but I don't know, is there someone else out there? What are your thoughts, Tuckers?
Just very quickly, I think I don't think there's anyone else that really deserved the title shot that really stood out in terms of getting a title shot against Khamzat. Maybe Drickus in some sort of world. You can mount an argument. He's already beaten Strickland twice. But look, Sean and Chimaev have got a lot of beef, a lot of history. Sean's gotten this fight, no doubt, because of his mouth and the fact that he's been really abusive towards Khamzat Chimaev. They're old sparring partners. They've got history. This is going to be one of the absolute must-not-miss press conferences and lead up to the fight that you'll ever want to see. Could get really ugly. There's a risk that this one gets ugly because they're both not backwards in coming forwards, that's for sure. Khamzat's just a friggin' fucking scary man as well. You get him offside at a press conference, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's an all-in brawl when they're facing off. So that's going to be fireworks, going to be blockbuster. Sean's an awkward fighter. We learned in his last fight that he's not done yet. He's super fit. Came into that fight with a level of cardio that we haven't seen from him for a little while now, probably since the Israel fight. I think it was probably his best performance, Sean Strickland. So I'm okay with it. It's probably the biggest name fight you can make in the middleweight division at this point in time. So yeah, I'm okay with it, Bally. That division, it's not as strong as it probably was a couple of years ago when you had a few people coming for Izzy and Pereira was around, Drickus was on the heels, Rob was still a contender, Paulo Costa was thereabouts. I think that division needs a little bit of a spark at the moment. So I'm okay with it. But look, plenty going on in the world of combat sports, as we touched on off the top, Bally. It never stops. We've spoken a lot between yourself and I about the Matchroom v Zoo for boxing duels which are going on at the moment. We got Eddie Hearn and Dana White talking about getting into the ring and having a boxing match. For mine, I think Dana absolutely pieces up Eddie Hearn just for what it's worth. So that's a really cool little rivalry that's going on in the world of combat sports at the moment. But we have had some really cool and interesting news over the past few weeks. We've had Netflix coming to the party, and they are hosting a one-off MMA fight night event in about a month. What is it? May the 16th, I believe it is.
Yep.
Headlined by some really big names. They brought this card together by really targeting some of the biggest UFC names that we have ever seen, who are no longer competing within the UFC. We've got Ronda Rousey, we've got Francis Ngannou, we've got Nate Diaz, and then we've got Mike Perry, all fighting in the top three fights. This is something that is really stirring the pot a little bit because it's very clear the UFC were trying to get Nate Diaz back into the UFC. I think they were trying to make the Conor fight. As we touched on before, he's now going to go to Netflix and make absolute bank. They couldn't make Gina Carano and Ronda Rousey, the UFC, either when they were tasked with making that fight a couple of years ago. Netflix have come to the party and pulled it together. This card's being pulled together in collaboration with MVP, Most Valuable Promotions, your boy Jake Paul, and Nikisa Padarian. They are trying to pull together something that I think will really challenge the UFC and is really gonna draw a lot of eyeballs. It's on Netflix. We're not paying any extra for it. There's no pay-per-view. It's going to be one of those events which I think is getting a lot of eyeballs because of the names that are on there at the top. But, we had the full card released earlier today, which I know you had some thoughts on, Bully, but some cool names on there. Just one I do want to just mention off the top, which I don't even think we spoke about, but they've got Muhammad Mokaev on there. So I don't know if you remember Mokaev. He was an undefeated prospect in the UFC. Yep. He was cut as an undefeated fighter because they just didn't deem him exciting enough. He's gone off to other promotions. He's still undefeated. He's fighting on Netflix on one of the biggest stages. This is war, boy. This is MVP versus the UFC.
Yeah, I'm so excited for it. Like Jake the Snake, I've been your biggest critic, but this MVP is doing some things that I'm really liking. I think there's been too long the UFC's had no competition. Too long as the UFC just been able to rest on their laurels and just do what they want. It's now exciting to see a promotion like this going, you know what? Yeah, we probably can't get the best people, but let's get some people that actually bums on seat fillers, So, Francis Ngannou, he was one of the main stars of the UFC. Him and Dana didn't get on, so obviously, that ended how it ended. But I'm pumped to see Francis back. Then you've obviously got Ronda Rousey. Like, she pretty much put the women's kind of UFC on the map. An absolute pioneer, someone who was brutal. She really just set the whole joint alight. Obviously, she went off to do some Mickey Mouse fake wrestling, but she's still one of the best, and I'm loving what I've been hearing from her in the press conferences. I love she's given a little bit of shit back to the UFC and calling out Dana. And then the big one, which you mentioned, like the fact that we're getting Mike Perry, bare knuckle superstar, just an absolute brawler versus Nate Diaz, which is huge. And there's rumor that they're paying Nate Diaz within, I think, upwards of 10 million for the fight. So it's exciting. Is it going to just be a one-off fight, like a one-off card, and it's a bit of a flash in the pan, or can Jake, get some sponsors behind him? Can he start? We've seen what's happening with the pay disputes and people being upset. You mentioned MVP. Could he get a Sugar Sean? Could he throw some money at a Gaethje? There's a big scope for opportunity for Jake and for MVP. I think this is really exciting for fighting fans, and maybe this might make Dana, he's kind of looks uninterested. We're getting less social media content. We've mentioned some of the fight cards haven't been amazing. Could this be the spark and that WCW versus WWE that we all missed and love? So yeah, it's crazy. And the one thing I would have loved is Gable Stevenson was just sitting there. The one that's been touted as the next heavyweight champion of the UFC. Could you have not just gone for him, chucked a big pile of money in front of him and said, fuck you, Dana, I've got the guy that you wanted, and made him, the poster child of MVP? What are your thoughts, Tuckers?
Well, there'd be no doubt they would have tried to get Gable Stevenson because, he's been someone that the UFC has been trying to get for quite a while now, which probably leads me to think that they've got him. and it's probably going to be announced pretty soon. And a lot of people saying that he's literally the tip that he will be the heavyweight champion of the UFC by the end of this year. So, you never know. We might get a him versus Alex Pereira later in the year, which would be blockbuster. But this MVP Netflix card, which is taking place on March 16th, will be the most watched MMA event in history. It will surpass the glory days of Conor McGregor pay-per-view events back in the day.
Wow, it's a big call.
Well, we think about those, Bully. They're sort of 3 to 4 million pay-per-view buys. This is going to have tens of millions of people watching it from my perspective. I know they're not paying for it. I'm not saying that it's going to be the highest generating revenue mixed martial arts event in history, but this is what MVP does. They will come out and they will be resting on their laurels forever. We have had the most watched event in mixed martial arts history, which is only going to give them more bargaining power for some of these fighters in the future. I think they're here to stay. I think they are really trying to mount a challenge. MVP has failed a little bit from the boxing front in recent years. I'm not sure that there's much interest ongoing about Jake Paul fighting anyone else. So why not diversify what they're doing? Why not step into MMA space and try and take on the UFC? I get the sense, Nikisa Padarian, who I believe is either the CEO or one of the COOs of MVP, he comes from the UFC. He used to be Dana's right-hand man, so he knows the product, he knows the model. I get the sense that they're coming and they're going to really try and mount a challenge for the UFC. So I think it's what we need. UFC is I don't want to say it's stale because we love it, right? And there's plenty of cool events coming up, but they've got this deal with Paramount where they don't need to really work as hard as they used to make these big main events. We just saw John Jones fall through. We didn't get him at the White House because John tells us they didn't want to pay $1 over $15 million. He tweeted that. Dana disputes it, but it's clearly a money factor there that they didn't want to pay John Jones what they thought he was worth. Then you're starting to get a lot of whispers from fighters just about stuff that the UFC are doing, which is rubbing people up the wrong way. Bonuses which are not being paid out, which people thought they would. Fighters not being aware of what happens when they used to get pay-per-view bonus rankings and bonus dollars for pay-per-views. It feels like there's a lot of people getting into the fighters' ears to get the word out that the UFC's bad with money at the moment. You said you saw some stuff today about the UFC cutting back in some other areas as well, right? Like, what'd you see there?
Yeah, I saw, interesting enough today, that the UFC has now said that in the past they've always covered, accommodation and incidentals and, those kind of little costs for the fighters, where now Dana's come out and said, we're scrapping that. We're not going to be paying for accommodation, flights, any of that, those little kind of extras. And when it actually boils down to it, with a lot of these fighters, we've heard sometimes they're making $15,000 a fight. You imagine, getting the accommodation, getting the flights, bringing your whole team over, the fight camps, like it's becoming almost, a lot of them are saying they're only maybe just even breaking even now. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a worry that, they're cutting down and people like MVP and Jake Paul and the whole crew are going, maybe they're smelling a little bit of blood in the water and going, all right, well, if they're cutting back, it shows that they're obviously doing some, they're having some problems with money. Let's go out and try and get a couple of stars. And, I said it recently that, the WNBA players on average are getting $300,000 and they're bringing in, a fraction of what the UFC are bringing in. And for $15,000 a fight, it's pretty piss poor. So I'm excited to see what happens, but you're right. There's definitely a couple of worries, but as you mentioned, we're both diehards. We love it. The cards are still awesome. But I would like to just see us maybe, UFC go in a bit of a different direction and maybe really, feel the challenge and rise to it. What are you thinking about the space?
There's a revolution in the waters. There's no doubt, Paulie. Fighters are starting to speak out. There's unrest in the air. You can tell when Justin Gaethje has 15 fight of the night bonuses and hasn't made $1 million. He was clear to tell us that a while ago.
Crazy.
Something not right about it. So, there's movement in the background here. Stuff's happening. There's competitors coming into the market. You've got agitators in Eddie Hearn getting into the ear of the UFC and causing issues with the heavyweight champion. Yeah, so there's no doubt it's a bit of a tense time for the UFC at the moment, but they're still the front runner. They're still the boss. They're still the big boys in the industry. It's going to be hard to take them down with TKO backing them as well. So I back my man Dana. He will find a way to keep this sport engaging and exciting. And yeah, the best fighters in the world are still within the UFC. Don't worry about that, Bally. Look, we've run for a fair bit of time here. I do just quickly want to mention that there is another fight night next weekend as well. That's Sunday, the 5th of April here in Australia. We won't have an episode before then, but cool fight there. We've got Renato Money Moicano taking on Chris Duncan. For those of you who don't know, Money Moicano is a really fun fighter. Getting on a little bit now and he's slipped down the rankings a bit, but really cool fighter to watch, really exciting striker. I'd expect him to have a win next Sunday. But the next episode that we're going to host, Bally, we got a really big event coming up in a couple of weeks. We've got UFC 327. Where's that fight? That's taking place in Miami in the USA, actually. So really cool event. We got Yuri Prochazka, we got Carl Solberg, we got Joshua Van and Tatsu Taira, we got Curtis Blades, Josh Hokett, Johnny Walker, Dominic Reyes. There are big names everywhere. That is going to be an episode not to miss because we're going to do a deep dive into that card. We're looking like, Bally, there's some movement in terms of getting someone onto the show to join us for that episode as well. So
there's a little birdie told me that there's a few guests that are chomping at the bit to come on the Throw and Shade pod. So
well, the pressure's on now, Bally. We have to get someone on to help us run through that episode. But
I also love how Tuckers, when you talk about Mexican fighters or Spanish fighters, you get a little accent that you put on. And I'm not sure if it's I don't know, politically correct, but I enjoy it nevertheless. So keep doing it for our fans.
Yeah, you don't know if it was Portuguese, Spanish, Mexican. It's hard.
Could have been Indian at one stage, mate. I'm not sure the accents are your strong suit, but maybe leave that to the old ball bag.
Well, I'm naturally appealing to the Indian fans, Bolly. We've got a lot of Indian subscribers on our YouTube channel.
We do love our Indian supporters. Please keep subscribing, and we love giving you great content down there.
Fantastic and absolutely correct, Bally. But that brings us to the end of episode 5 of the Throwing Shade pod. Thank you once again to everyone, to our fans, to our subscribers. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, please like, please follow at Throwing Shade pod. You'll find us on Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. YouTube's a big one, guys. YouTube's the one that we want to really build a strong fan base on and subscriber base. We're putting shorts out. We're putting full-length episodes out there as well. We want you to be able to see this pretty face, right? Like, this doesn't just happen. Like, he's got he gets the feathers clipped every episode. He's looking fresh, losing weight, green on green.
Got the beard trim, Thought I'd go the camouflage look with the back screen here. So, just get around me, Tuckers.
What's happened in the dating life, Paulie? Can we ask a question?
Do we have enough time for that, Tuckers? I thought you were just wrapping us up.
I was about to, but I'm looking at you, mate. I just think
we might have to keep that for the next episode. I think it's been a long episode, but there's plenty going on. So I look forward to
positive or negative.
With a ball bag, it's always positive. It's always positive.
On that note, we will leave you to it, everyone. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, guys. That was good, bro. I'm eating the first biscuit. Fuck it.